Hello everyone, welcome and thank you so much for watching Rite TV. Here on Rite TV, our desire is for transformation of lives, especially of those that are watching our programs. And in particular, this program, Shield of Faith. Here on this program, we advocate for gospel renewal through testimonies that are empowering, testimonies that reflect God's pursuit of our hearts and our lives, pursuit of the hearts and lives of those that we host on this show. And today, like many other shows that we've had in different languages, today we are privileged to host someone whose testimony is exciting, whose testimony is filled with riveting stories and whose ideals and thoughts are going to come forth as we listen to him. Brothers and sisters, welcome with me Pastor Denis, the youth pastor of St. Francis Chapel, Makerere. You're a good friend and an old friend of mine.
Very old, actually.
Yeah, we were discussing how you are not Torimuto, but we shall get there. We shall get there.
Thank you, Gideon.
Thank you so much for coming and for being part of our show.
You're welcome. I
wanted to, first of all, for the sake of those that don't know what this is about, I'd like you to give us a background of how you first of all came into the world, and what was your experience in your first few years on this earth.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for hosting me today.
Okay.
Thank you, Gideon. I grew up, I was born to Christian parents. My father and mom. My father was a Christian when he was alive. Mr. Mugume Stephen, headmaster. We used to call him headmaster because he was a headmaster. And my mom, still alive up to now, Mugume Proskovia. So we are three at home. I'm the second born of three, and grew up in Chibuli most of my life. Our house used to be where IU is, so it was destroyed with the development.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of changes.
Later on, we moved to the staff quarters of Chibuli SS.
All right.
And that's where we were for about 20 or so years.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard you've mentioned that your father has gone to be with the Lord.
Yeah.
We'll get to that at some point. But before we get to that, how did you come to know Jesus? At what age did you first come to know Jesus?
Well, Sunday school.
Right.
Sunday school, St. Stephen's in Zambia. Those of you at St. Stephen's in Zambia Police Barracks, we had to move from Chibuli all the way to St. Stephen's.
Wow.
My Sunday school teachers, there were some people who used to do Sunday school. So I would learn about Jesus, would sing the songs of Jesus. But at offertory time, I remember dividing the offertory. So one coin goes to the offertory bag, the other coin goes to ice cream.
Yeah. You're offering yourself some.
My parents were both in choir, so I would come just at the time for offertory.
Yeah.
And pick up the offertory that was for the basket, and then I'll take off my tithe as well.
Okay.
That was Jesus for me for a long time.
All right.
Jesus was someone that we sang about in Saturday school, and then later on as we prayed to, and that was it.
That was it. So when did you first give your life over to Jesus?
I was at Shimoni. And then from Shimoni,
the school
Shimoni Demonstration School.
All right.
Where there's Kingdom Kampala Express now.
It was demolished. Shimoni demolished school,
demolished school now. But I moved to Chireka SDA.
Okay.
And I moved to SDA school. Because my aunt told my parents that your child is getting spoiled.
Oh, for the sake of those that are watching us, what is SDA?
SDA is Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay, so you were in a Seventh-day Adventist school.
Yes, from P5 up to P7.
Wow.
Yes, because they were saying your child is about to do PLE, but he has Chejo. I need Chejo. So take him to a strict school, an SDA school.
So for 3 years you were in an SDA school?
SDA school, I remember they were very big on Sabbath, Saturday, so work would end Friday evening at 6. So Sabbath day was a day of rest, and they were strict, no academic work. We would sleep out and just sleep the entire afternoon after Sabbath day. They were big on the last days, how the Pope is the Antichrist. They said that, for the record, they taught that, and they were big on baptism. And they told us that those of us who are Anglicans weren't really getting the picture, you had to be immersed. So, but before you immerse,
So they were big on immersion.
Immersion, Sabbath, day,
Sabbath.
and the last days.
All right. And their take on Jesus?
And their take on Jesus was the one who saves you from hell. Because if you're big on the last days,
Yeah.
automatically you have to see Christ as a fire insurance.
Well, that's one way of putting it. Okay. So fire insurance of hell.
So in that cultural moment, I came to Christ. And also they taught us that before we do our PLE, they open this scripture of Exodus where they are about to cross over the Red Sea and they have to consecrate themselves. So in that sense, you don't want to do your PLE before you give your life to Jesus. So I gave my life just for the first time in P7, right?
Wow.
And
in an SDS setting.
SDS setting, because Christ is the one who will enable me to reach to cross the Red Sea of PLE to senior secondary school, Canaan.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the first time I came to Jesus.
Wow, that must have been a jumble of information.
It was a whole lot, because from P5 up to P7, they had special classes, Sabbath classes, where you get, so the Pope has this robe that he has. I think it has some words, Vicarious Day, I think.
Yeah.
And if you put them all together, they add up to 660. In Roman
numerology is also in that mix. My goodness.
You know, so it was a lot of that. And then into high school. High school, I was here at Shibuli SS now.
Okay, so from an SDA setting.
From an SDA setting
to a Muslim immersion.
A Muslim immersion setting. Now, my belief was everybody believes the same God. And I think you've had that a lot of media.
That
we all believe the
Abrahamic
same
faiths,
God.
everyone has the same.
Yeah. So one time, there's a student called Sengen, I think he passed on, Sengen Umar, and he was having his wudu. So I was like washing my clothes.
Having his wudu.
So wudu is the ceremonial thing that the Muslims do before they go to the mosque.
Yeah.
And then
ceremonial cleansing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cleansing. And then he asked me, you guys have the three gods.
From an SDA. Okay.
God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Which God is actually God? Now, for my life, I had never had that question. I thought, you guys are strange. What do you mean? It's God in three persons. It is God the Trinity. It's like, no, God is one. God can't be split into three. That began to make me raise some questions. However, it didn't really come up. I still went back to the world. The world in terms of, I loved secular music.
Wow.
So, Capital FM.
Yeah, it was like
and the weekly top 40.
I
knew all those songs. Sanyu FM, top 20 at 8 with Christo and I think Shetanis.
Yeah.
Then somewhere in there in Form 2, Form 3 there, Hot 100 came in.
Yeah.
You know, so I would.
That's how far back?
This is now 2004, 5 thereabouts. So I would just absorb secular music, a lot of it. And of course, secular music comes with a lot of nudity, foul language. So I had a foul tongue. I learned how to diss people.
Denis Mugume,
yes.
You had a foul tongue.
A foul tongue. Like people would literally buy for me breakfast for me to abuse someone for them. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm the guy you go to if you need to diss some chick in school. Because somewhere in P5 there, in the SDA school, I tell you, we were abused by our body parts. So if you have a big nose, you're called oxygen. If you have big ears like mine, you're called elephant ears. Like they're so big they can just flap everybody. So that sort of put some pain in me around the opposite sex.
Really?
Which now grew in Form 3 as abuse, verbal abuse. I was very abusive, like in terms of language. I knew how to twist words to get them to hurt.
Yo, that was like some major next level wickedness.
There it was. Then,
but you're saved.
Still. I'm saved. I'm saved, but
in Chibuli.
In Chibuli, but not like because there is saved.
Yeah.
So the guys who are saved wouldn't go for movies.
Okay.
So Saturday night there is movies and there is fellowship.
Yeah. As it was in most schools.
In most schools,
it was a clear-cut
Why
dividing line. Those who want to go to hell and those who want to go to
heaven. And the trouble is, the main hall is like here, and these are our dormitories.
Yeah.
Before they shoot the movie, they have like 4 songs.
Yeah.
Secular songs: Puff Daddy, Sean Paul, B2K.
Great, you're name dropping up in here.
Like that was the thing you get. Like, and
Yeah.
I knew all those songs. So now the war began in my heart. Either movies or fellowship. And again, there's a guy called Timothy Musaz. He's not a doctor. He once met me in the Deepening, and he said, if Christ came back right now, would you go to heaven right now? I'm like, no, of course not. But, you know, he's a God of grace. He will understand. Like, so the other question of three gods, plus this battle I have with secular music, and of course, the nudity and the foul language, and also my love for movies. Loved movies. And the fact that why do Christians meet at the same time as movies? And in school, our main hall had booked seats. So if you're in S1, your real seat begins in Form 3 or Form 2. Because every space you sit in the movie time is booked. Someone can bounce you. So if you get that like in S1 third term, it remains your seat until Form 4.
So now you're steeped into SDA mix, Muslim mix, and now secular
music. That was my life.
Secularism was running your life up until this point. Meanwhile, the whole time you were thinking you are saved.
I'm a Christian because Sunday we all humble our souls, become good boys, come to church.
Yeah.
But Saturday night we are in the main hall watching B2K and Sean Paul and Beanie Man.
And there was no guilt. You were not feeling any guilt in
There was
doing
some
that.
tension.
Yeah.
It was there. I'm not supposed to be doing this, but well, it's so enjoyable. Like, good. If it's so wrong, why does it feel so right? You know what I mean?
I can imagine.
Yeah. So Form 3 now. This is Plan 5. This is Plan 6.
Yeah.
Form 3, Form 4. My father happens to be the DOS. Mr. Mugume is the DOS of the school.
Wow, he was the director of studies in the school
in the
Chibuli.
Muslim school. By God's grace, somehow he was there, because right now I'm not sure it is possible to do that. So, but I'm not doing well in school. And you know, Form 3, Form 4, there are things were getting rough. You know, rest of Africa, mole concept for chemistry people. You know, things like geography, you know, Drakensberg Mountains, so you have to cram all this stuff. Then biology also is getting rough. And I was scared again of failing. And that time power would go off at midnight every night.
Wow.
Every night power would go off. And I'm like, good, I don't want to. So my father was very hardworking and he was respected in the entire school. And I didn't want to let him down. And I remember that at P7, as exams were coming, I consecrated myself.
Yeah, you set yourself apart
for God.
For crossing the Red Sea.
The Red Sea now to Form. So now, in Form 3, I began to seek God afresh, because now the questions were getting worse. And the pain was Christians who would come to school as Christians were getting converted by the Muslims. And that would annoy me somehow. I'm not a full Christian, but I'm angry at Christians who are leaving the faith to join Islam. So now I began to read. Some early students had left a small library in a room where we used to keep sound equipment for the church in Chibuli. So I picked up a book called Evidence Which Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell.
Wow.
It was torn apart.
This is Form what?
Form 3 now.
You read Josh McDowell in Form 3?
I was hungry for evidence.
Oh my goodness.
So I was looking for something, a way to explain the Christian faith to a Muslim. And Josh McDowell had all the about the Bible, So I began to read all these things, and I began to respond to Muslims. Now we got into very hard debates. There's a guy called Were Comfort. If you're ever watching this guy, what did there was... So Were Comfort gets into a hot argument with a Muslim. And somewhere in the argument, the Muslims tell him that, look here, if you touch the Quran without will, all right, your hand will shrivel and get leprosy. He said, bring it. I'll do you one more. I'll slap it and step in it.
Oh my.
They brought it. Man slapped the Quran. Oh! They almost lynched him. It was the teacher on duty who had to come and take him to the staff quarters and spend the night there.
Because they were
So the school
coming for you.
put full ban on Muslim-Christian arguments and debates. No more arguing. If they find you, expulsion. So now we went undercover. So if a Muslim came to me to ask questions, because the idea was I was beginning to do what I learned later as apologetics.
Yeah.
But I'm defending the faith when I myself am not really there. Now, for the Muslim, it's not enough just to give good answers from the Bible. You have to live the life. So sometimes back you would win the argument, and then you are in the bathroom and you forget, and you sing Mikey Zigid. There's a guy called Zigid, and Mikey Zigid. And the Muslims hear that, and they're like, "Omloko walero, atabuste."
Witness the Morocco.
And that would kill us. Now, that means I had to give up my music I loved so much, because this music was making me lose the moral argument for the Christian God.
So you were actually letting go of these things to defend the argument for Christianity.
Yeah.
But you hadn't yet really
given my life.
That is
So
interesting.
now Form 4 is coming now, and these are exam time, and I really now want to pass. And I came to Christ and I said, Christ, as you did it in PP7, you are there for me. Please, also now, I promise I will change. Now, I'm not like those guys who have Christ speaking to them every day, you know. But I heard the voice of God clearly, and he said, you only come to me when you're in trouble. When things are going good, you don't remember me at all.
You heard God save
I heard
those.
the voice of God. Now, I can't tell you how. I can't say it was audible.
Yeah.
But it was more or less like a conviction in my heart that I only get to come to Christ when I'm in trouble, when the exams are pending, when I'm broke, when I need some help badly from God.
Isn't that what most Christians tend to do today?
We are Christians until it gets biblical.
Until it gets biblical. Yeah, so because that's what, I mean, hearing your story makes me feel like I interact with a number of people who are using their ideas of Christianity as a way through which they will get the things they actually do desire. And so in your story, as you began to hear this voice, how did it, what was the effect on your life? Did it edge you closer to God, or did it make you feel more tension, or did it draw you back?
I think for me, the tension was released when I fully surrendered, in terms of we cannot keep on doing this game with God.
Yeah.
P7 exams, you are holy, and you're a holy kid.
But
senior 1 to senior 3, you are the abuser. You're the one who is being
just
paid
wicked.
to abuse girls. You're just wicked. And also you're picking up a celebrity status because your father is the DOS, your baby DOS. I was baby DOS. And I got a thing for music at some point. I would rap for guys. I would also use the set, put there some stones, little stones in a set. After prep, bang some beats on the counter where they teach from. And that was music. Because in a Muslim school, there is very little music, don't allow music. It is haram. So guys would get excited about that and dance. So I think for me now, the tension was, if I get saved for real, as I see it in the Bible, I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to have to give up my secular music, which I love so much. I even had a book where you would write. So if you have a computer lesson, you do the practical in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And the other lesson is for you to download the lyrics and copy them in your notes and go and rap for guys in dorm.
Oh my. And
of course, when you rap, there's a basket going around. Of course, there's some breakfast. And now I'm like giving up all that to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
So for me, the call of Jesus was very clear. Luke 9 to 22.
Yeah.
Whoever would come after me must deny themselves, take up their cross and follow me. And for me, the cross was very clear. I give up my lyrics book. I give up my habits, my abusing of the girls,
your status.
My status as a pop celebrity with the beats,
Yeah.
And that was painful. And the last fight I remember was they were playing Sean Paul. Give me the lights.
Yeah, because Sean Paul was the thing back in the day.
With his faded jeans and Timberland boots. So they were playing Sean Paul in the main hall, and it was time for fellowship. I gave my life to Christ on Sunday, but now it is Saturday the next week. And there's a fight. Should I go for fellowship or should I? Until I'm like, no, let me just go for fellowship. If they finish, I'll come back and watch the movies. But when I waited, I ain't come back. God arrested my heart from there.
That's fantastic.
And that's I remember the time when someone called Edgar Barole, some other guys came around me and had MP3s. They were MP3 those days. Remember them? They were CDs with over 100 songs.
Yeah.
So that's when I got into cross movements. Guys like Papa Sam.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, these guys sound like secular guys,
But
they have nice music. So I now began to make sure I replace every secular song with a gospel song in that genre. And I realized there are as many genres as they are in the gospel world as they are in the secular world.
you know, before we take a break, you reminded me of someone asked me a question. How do you gave me a dirty glass with some dirty water and said, "How do you make this glass clean without touching it?"
Wow.
And I racked my head about it, and I didn't know how to. I thought it was like a riddle. It's like, no, just keep pouring clean water until it is out.
Then the other one.
Yeah, and I think that for me, hearing your story now, at that point, you're beginning to fill yourself with the things of God, and your mind is beginning to be renewed.
Yes.
Let's take a break, and we'll get back, and then we'll pick up from there. Hello, everyone. I am Reverend Captain Gideon Muhima. Thank you for checking out our Rite TV channels. If you would like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverages, click right here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download our Rite TV app for breaking news. Thank you for watching. All right, very welcome. Welcome back to Rite TV, and welcome back to Shield of Faith. With us, one more time, we have Denis Mugume.
Yeah,
I keep doing that.
Keep on doing
Denis
this,
Mugume, who is the youth pastor of St. Francis Chapel, Makerere, a defender of the faith. And as you've heard in the previous section, he's an apologist, not apologetics, apologist,
yes,
an apologist, a defender of the faith,
an apologist,
a Christian, a deeply rooted man of God in theology, steeped in theology, because you can sense it, you can smell it. All right, so now we were at the point of you had given your life to Jesus through high school. You have you were steeped in SDA, in Muslim culture, in secular culture, and now God was pulling you out of all of that and asking you to let go. And you pointed to Luke 9. Pick up your cross and follow him. Yes. And now you're at the point of following Jesus. You're on campus. Yeah. What is that like? What is the freedom on campus like as a man who is set free by Christ?
Right. So I was happy about my newfound salvation, very zealous about it. Yeah. And then I landed into prosperity preaching, gospel preaching. There's a guy from Nigeria. I don't know whether I should mention his name, but a preacher from Nigeria who used to wear white suits and dye his hair and
that guy.
Parting.
We know that guy.
If you know him.
Yeah.
I began to follow him ardently. I became steeped in prosperity gospel theology. I didn't know it was prosperity gospel theology then. I just felt like he brought the miracle elements to the faith that has been missing for a long time.
Right.
So I joined his campus fellowship while I was at St. Francis still. So Thursdays I would be away to join his fellowship, but Sunday I would come to St. Francis.
Right.
And so I felt like guys at St. Francis were a bit religious, not getting
dogmatic. They were not feeling there was no power.
The Greek word for this is sunaidesis. The Greek word is phonesis for wisdom. There's wisdom, Sophia, like you would go Greek and what. So I fell into that for a while at campus. Most of my campus life actually was into that. The big break came around piloting. I wanted to be a pilot. So I got government at campus for environmental science, but I wanted to be a pilot. So I'm like, let me just do this course in government. When I finish it, I'm going to piloting school. And then, of course, because I'm at a prosperity preaching church, whatever you declare is what you receive. If you speak positively, it will manifest. So I began to speak positive. Now I'm a Christian. Meanwhile, I've turned away from the world. I'm not living that world lifestyle. But it was like this thing was giving me something of what I left in the world, but in a Christian way. Like
so now
an unhealed, unrepented lust that is coming back with a religious garb on it.
Oh, that's a mess of things, man.
Yeah.
So how, what was the...
God basically blocked every door for piloting. I remember applying to Qatar Airways, and they actually called me for the interviews, but I couldn't get the visa. And the last application is because I missed attaching the emails that we had been exchanging. And I was then a visa on those grounds.
My goodness. You would be a pilot by now.
After confessing
and declaring
decreeing
the things of
faith creates.
Yes,
your
yes.
lips, your
Speak
mouth.
into the things that are not as if they are.
So I had an anger now. I was angry either at myself or at God, but I was just angry. So I stopped going to church for a while. There's a friend of mine, she's now married to Joseph Biamukama. Her name is Daphne. She would send me John Piper quotes.
Really?
On SMS. Desiring God. She would
Yeah.
send. So one time after closing my heart out to God for about 6 months or 8 months, close to a year, I landed on the Desiring God website.
This was on campus still?
On campus. No, this was after campus.
Okay,
I failed to get to the piloting school.
Yeah.
Desiring God is there. And I begin to read some of the books. There's a book called Let the Nations Be Glad.
Oh, nice.
I perused through it,
yes.
and then he had 12 appeals to prosperity preachers. And I began to agree. He said, do not preach a gospel which stirs up suicide in people.
Yes.
Then he quoted Timothy, that those who desire to be rich ensnare themselves with lusts and
yeah.
Yes, I agree. I highlighted, underlined, agree. I'm like, oh my, this is my problem. I shouldn't be mad at God. I should be mad at the person who gave me this gnosis of a message of prosperity.
Really?
So I picked up Desiring God, the book. And that time, all his books, almost all of them were free. They were free PDFs. Yes. I began to digest every one of them. 12 marks, 12 things about who God is. Desiring God itself, the book. Let the Nations Be Glad, the missions book. I am like, I agree. So now, years on, I was still a volunteer at St. Francis now. I had begun coming back as a volunteer under someone called Tandika.
Yes,
Daniel.
You were volunteering
at St. Francis.
Because what had all the other prospects?
They had literally closed. Like God literally closed the doors for piloting.
And so you were just at St. Francis just to do.
St. Francis, I would even leave home without transport. I would ask the housemaid for transport to go to church. My goodness. And pray and ask God to show me somebody who he has spoken to give me to transport back home. So I had this newfound zeal now to serve God and to correct as many Christians are trapped in this ugly message, this suicidal message of prosperity. That's how I now began to do the write-ups. And now at some point, there's a fellowship which meets somewhere here in Lugo. Was just starting then. It was called Shofar of Grace then. Shofar of Grace. I remember it. Shofar of Grace. It sent its members to our sales. And they sent some of their members to a chapel sale. And we had a heated argument about prosperity. And I was just fresh from the wounds of prosperity. So I began to now show from the scriptures that Christ should be desired for his own sake and not for what he can give us. And then, please speak more into that, especially for those who may be caught up in that. They are listening and watching this program, but are also steeped in all the other things that you mentioned. They're steeped in secularism. They're steeped in a wrong gospel that isn't the gospel anyway. How would you challenge them to begin to think, to move away from that kind of thought? Because you, in your time, you were steeped in it. You were steeped in prosperity. And God just suddenly dragged you out of it. So what would be like the one statement of faith that you would make to help them open their eyes to see that what they are believing right now is a lie from hell? God is not a means to an end. He is the end in himself. He doesn't need you to be successful. He needs you to be faithful. Boy. Doesn't need you to. He doesn't need you to succeed for his glory. He needs you to follow him. Take up your cross and follow me. And that does speak into relationship with him. It has less to do with your performance. And everything to do with your faithfulness. I think the key difference between the gospel and the prosperity gospel is that the prophetic gospel is you at the center and God as your errand boy.
Is your genie in the
send
bottle.
around, you command with positive thinking and channel his energy to your cause.
That
Yet
is
the
no
gospel
God at
is
all.
Christ exalted, Christ at the center.
We are living for him, dying for him,
We are.
existing for him.
What does Paul say in Philippians? I have been crucified with Christ, and the life I now live is by faith in the Son.
Galatians 2, 20. Yeah.
You have been crucified with Christ. It's not about you.
Wow.
As in, we just need to get to this point where we realize it's not about us.
But that must be difficult to get to. It has to be a faith thing for you to be dragged out of that kind of thinking.
And the trouble is the lesson comes through pain. The pain of wasting over 15 million applying for visas to the UK.
Whoa, 15 million because
And
you're
not
declaring
even
and decreeing.
You're not even working, you're just telling guys to support you and they're giving you money that you're putting into this dream because you've been told that if your mind can conceive it, you can achieve it.
If you can perceive
If
it,
you can perceive it,
you can achieve it.
And that's not true. It's not about you, no. It's not about you. You know, God can run the world without you. In fact, you will die tomorrow,
And
we'll
the
have
world
some
will
rice,
still-
and the world will move on comfortably. So you are better off aligning yourself to what God is doing in your life versus trying to establish your own kingdom and ask God to be a servant in it.
Now, you pointed out on the issue of the books, The Desiring God, and how that opened your mind.
Yeah.
There was a phrase that John Piper says a lot, especially in the book of the missions.
Yeah.
And he says that
The nations be glad. Yeah.
yeah, worship, mission is meant for worship.
Yeah.
Mission is meant for worship. So that everything that we're doing is on mission to draw all men to worship God, to be in union with God.
Yeah.
And I thought about it as you were talking about it and how you got to this place in full surrender to his call to join full-time church ministry.
Yeah.
What was that like? What pushed you into this kind of space? I'm curious because you were a young man with so much ahead of you, a lot of because you're not too old, you know, and you're still unmarried. So there's a lot of prospects, possibilities ahead, and so much to see.
Yeah.
What led you into this space? Because I have been in that position where people have told me, maybe because life failed you, that is why you joined this thing, because it's for lazy people and it's for people who just don't want to have anything else to do.
Wow.
How would you respond to that?
I think God has two ways. There's the easy way and the hard way.
You
The
bet.
easy way is Jonah, go to Nineveh and preach to those people.
Yeah.
The hard way is no, I'll go to Tarshish and then hide.
Yeah.
And the way the writer of that book writes, it's like Jonah went down to Joppa.
Yeah.
Jonah went down the cabin.
Yeah.
The storm came and he was thrown down
Into the sea.
into the sea. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a down, down. So the more we flee from the will of God that we clearly know, like the call of God heavy upon your life, you're only causing pain to yourself. You get what I'm saying? Like there is no happiness outside God's holiness.
And it is not God causing the pain,
No, it is you. It's self-inflicted.
because he has designed you to go in this path, and the next path that you choose that is outside of that is a painful one.
Yeah. So I mean, get on with the program. And I met a guy, there's a Bible study I joined with my dad after we both now were saved.
Yeah.
And we were going to BSF together. BSF is Bible Study Fellowship. There's a brother in there, I've forgotten his name, but he said the Israelites rebelled against God, complained against God, and God still had his will with them. In other words, if you miss the promise, it's okay. Your kids are coming.
Yeah.
They'll get something. If they misbehave, their kids are coming. Like God is utterly consistent, utterly perfect. So it is in your best interest
But you just align.
to align yourself with what he's doing, not to command him and give him instructions. Send your Holy Spirit, Lord. Who are you? Like you're now sending the Lord.
Now, if someone were to argue
Yeah.
that how is that free will?
Yeah.
How does God be such a loving God and make me want to do what he wants to do? How would you deal with someone struggling like that? Like, I want to experience this prosperity, and God is calling me into a place
rejection.
And that is marred with suffering, and you're saying that is the path.
Yeah.
How is that a good God?
Yeah, I think the idea of knowing God isn't just an intellectual pursuit that we do. There is a practicality to it.
Yeah.
And the idea is, if I've walked with God these 20, 30 years of my life, and never once has he ever been wrong, then I can count that even when I feel like he's wrong,
I know that
I
he's
know
right.
eventually it turns out. In the Bible, there's a story of a guy called Darius and Daniel. He was a king. The long and short of it is, Daniel is in the lion's den. And in the lion's den, the man slept in the lion's den. Darius, access to full palace entertainment and royal luxuries, could not sleep.
Yeah.
Meaning, peace is a function of being in the middle of God's will, not outside.
Peace is a function
of being in the middle of God's will, not outside. If you are in a mansion outside the will of God, there won't be peace. If you're in the lion's den inside the will of God, there will be peace.
And nothing can buy peace. It is
that's just either you have
immeasurable
it or you don't. You can't fake it.
So,
you just can't.
So now, how did God call you?
So after that, I learned, a friend of mine called Raymond Bukenya had just come back from the UK.
Yes.
Did Oxford, the Oxford course,
Yeah.
OCA. So I'm like, man, hook me up in these things. So he sent me an online course to work out before I do, but I end up applying for the full course.
Yes.
And he's like, no, that was a mistake, but he's like, just leave it there. So in the mistake, they emailed me back for an interview. I did the interview, I passed it. And then they gave me a full scholarship to go and study theology at Oxford.
Yeah, see God's move. He made sure you don't get
piloting. And the first time I applied for a visa to go and study theology,
everything just aligned.
I applied that week. I got the visa on Friday, bought the ticket on Saturday, flew out on Sunday.
To England, Oxford
University.
Yo.
For my theology.
Those are things that people chase after for years.
That's when I knew God had closed that door to open this one. And he was right. Because when I go to the UK, I wanted to go to the school I was supposed to go to for flying, and I had no desire at all. It had left my system completely.
Wow.
Yet now it was a stone throw away. It was a train ride. You know, again of that Hebrews text that having seen the promises, they embraced them and they confessed that they were strangers and aliens in the world.
You know, it's interesting that you even say that, because recently I was just reading on the psalm that says, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. And the prosperity people, I often, they're hell-bent on that God will give you the desires of your heart. But the issue is about delighting in the Lord. And I think that in your story, the delight in the Lord changed your desires. And your desires were his desires.
Indeed.
And so now you could be a stone throw away from flying school. And
go there to even ask.
Because there was a mission.
There was God changes our hearts and causes us to now desire what he desires.
Yeah.
And that was to me the biggest thing of all. And now the calling to the ministry, of course, I began to help students and work out through their faith questions. And I realized I felt more alive there than I felt anywhere else.
Wow.
I could even do it for free.
You found your purpose in life.
Flourishing, purpose, meaning. You feel like your life matters and you've made an impact. Yet it's not you, but the Christ in you.
So if you died today,
I am going to heaven.
Would you say that you feel like your life has amounted to something?
Yeah. I think the idea here is, if you try to chase legacy, you lose the legacy. If you follow Christ and be faithful. I've always said that people who are famous in the Bible, David, Joseph, weren't trying to be famous. They are trying to be faithful, waking up to do what God last told them to do.
Do not be famous, be faithful.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's the way the Lord has shaped my journey up to now. Like, I feel like people's lives have been impacted. Some time back, I proposed to somebody. And I spent about 2 weeks replying to messages from people.
Yeah, you were an eligible bachelor for some time.
Yeah, that also, by the way, is a long story.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of waiting, there's something God shows you about you in the waiting. Anybody can receive results in a very short time, but not everyone can can wait. And the waiting exposes your greed, your lust, your pride, your entitlement that
And
God
those
has
are
to first deal with
as you wait.
as you wait.
So for single people out there, the reason they are waiting is God is exposing.
yeah.
Wow, how would you encourage a single person in their late 30s, especially the ladies, who are feeling the pressure to get married, but there's no one, and yet that's their greatest desire is to get married.
I think happiness is on the other side of holiness, not on the other side of marriage. You get what I mean?
Man, you're saying some bombs. Those are some truth bombs,
Honestly,
right?
if you're unhappy now as a single lady, you won't be happy as a married lady. There is more that's going on in your heart than you want to admit.
Happiness is on the side of
On
holiness.
the other side of holiness.
So when you chase after holiness, you will find the happiness, regardless of whether
single,
you are
married. And I know people feel like that's a religious
stamp.
stamp that we just give ourselves, but it is actually truth. It is truth.
Wouldn't you say there would be some people who would be arguing that makes some men lazy? They don't want to chase after women. They don't want to vibe them, or
I think the woman that you have to chase, you must keep chasing to maintain.
friends.
If you keep on chasing her, you will chase her even to the marriage. I think, guys, James is very clear, by the way. Every good and every perfect gift comes from God, the Father of lights, with whom there is no shadow of turning at all.
Yeah.
God knows us. God knows you. God knows the things you need before you ever needed them. Bible says before you even pray, I will answer. Meaning what? He knew what you needed in the first place before you prayed. So why are you acting like God is unaware, or he's sleeping, or he's dead, or he's all these things? So allow for God to do what he needs to do in your life. You know, like that is, I think, the point of singleness for me as a believer, is that you, of course, you'll be tempted. Like there are always girls. I mean, I'm at Makere. I mean, just imagine the sample space there.
Man, I was going to ask you, a single man at Makere
in the youth ministry.
In the youth ministry.
Every year you receive fresh-looking, hot ladies, and your role is to pastor them in a way that is faithful, that is not abusive, that is not pastor is dating all of us. You know, that you will trust the Lord to give you your own at his due season.
Yeah.
And that's a hard test.
That is very difficult, especially for men who have been told daily, every day, that they need to chase after, that women are like deer and they are like the lions, they are the hunters, and all of these things. So what you're saying really is anti-cultural right now.
I think be kind. Kindness is because you are a Christian.
It is not because you're chasing after.
We are called to be kind to all, be loving to all right? But the extra energy, the world says invest and chase, and we have this word now called simping. You know, that's what it means.
Yeah, I saw on your thing, simping is idolatry, and I was like, I'm running with this thing.
It is. I think the Bible says, owe no one anything apart from love.
It's brilliant.
So love people, right? Yeah. At the right time, you will speak to somebody and you will open up your books and share values, and you're like, oh, these are the same values. Oh, this is it. Let's go.
And quite besides, if you're both chasing holiness, and in Christ, you're more likely he's the one who's going to draw you together in him. Yeah. And man, I thank you. This is I can't wait for another hour of testimony where you share, especially this path, this issue of young men and young women who are chasing after the things of the world and are making marriage an idol, and making money an idol, and making all this power and fame idols, success and idols, and they're replacing God with them in their hearts. And I think that for us as young people, it is important to hear this message. Denis, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Good to be
thank
here
you.
Again.
Thank you for watching this. We're looking forward to hearing from you about this episode. May God bless you. I'm Gideon, he's Denis, and we are pastors and love Jesus and proclaim his gospel. God bless you.
Yes.